of Tisha Fields. She says she put down a deposit on an apartment the defendant was renting. But before she moved in, she made a horrific discovery. Buried in the backyard was a huge trap used to catch large rats. She was disgusted, told the defendant she no longer wanted the apartment, and now she won't return her $1,250. This is the defendant, Roberta Binyard. She says the plaintiff was only upset she couldn't use one of the hallways to store her stuff, and that's when she demanded her money back. The plaintiff is simply not entitled to a refund. She's wasted everyone's time, and just because she had a change of heart doesn't mean everyone has to bend backwards for her. She's accused of renting a rat trap.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket, the plaintiff rented an apartment from the defendant. Before moving in, she saw a big rat trap in the backyard. She wants to break the lease, but the defendant says the plaintiff is making excuses. It's not about rats at all. It's the case of you dirty rat.
Okay, Tisha Fields, you are suing Peace of Mind Realty, represented here by Roberta Binyard.
Yes.
Okay, for $1,250. That you paid them, that you want returned because, according to you, they misrepresented or failed to disclose to you something pretty material on a lease that you signed. Tell me what's going on.
Hi, Your Honor. I saw an apartment online listed under Peace of Mind Realty. I contacted the agent. I scheduled a viewing. I went to see the apartment, and initially I liked the apartment and had access to a backyard that I can only utilize. So I was quite impressed. I then asked the agent what would be the further steps. She told me I needed to put down a deposit in order for them to take the apartment off the market. She requested that I give her a certified bank check. So I went to my bank and I just, got the check and I gave them the deposit on the apartment. There was a question about the space because there was a room that was posted in the photos that I thought I would have access to. But when she showed me the apartment, I saw the room. And I asked her, I said, while
you're looking at the place,
I saw the room.
You see the room, and she says.
And I said, oh, is this a part of the apartment too? She said, yes. I said, will I have access to that room? She said, I'll get back to you about that. I'm not sure. I have to ask the owner.
Okay. And then before she gives you an answer, you give her the deposit?
Yes.
And then she gives you the answer, and the answer is no, you won't.
Yes.
And then you no longer want it because you want the storage?
No, that wasn't the reason why I didn't. When I went back to ask her, could I view the apartment again and I brought my mom. I wanted my mom to see the apartment.
Is this before or after she tells you you don't have access to that room?
This is after.
Okay. So you see the place.
Mm-hmm.
She tells you, I don't know if you have access.
Mm-hmm.
You give her the $1,250.
Mm-hmm.
She tells you do not have access. You go back and see it with your mom. That's the order.
Right.
Okay,
exactly.
go on.
I go back to see it with my mom. I'm waiting outside. There's some neighbors outside. I'm waiting for her to come and open the apartment. There's some neighbors outside, and they're talking about the rat condition in the neighborhood. One of the neighbors was saying that he had caught one the night before and hit it in the head with a big stick. They don't know why
How come none of that is in your complaint? That you heard neighbors talking about? That's not one word. That's like the juiciest thing I ever heard. Neighbors are talking about, I'm whooping it with a baseball bat. How come none of that is in your complaint?
I have no idea. But
you're not just making it up now to win the case, right?
Making it up.
Because it's kind of weird. I would expect you to include that in the complaint.
Well, I thought I mentioned it.
Nope,
but nonetheless.
you didn't. And you know you didn't because you just read your statement. You think she's making all this stuff up now because she's mad about the storage.
Yes, and that she wasn't going to receive her refund back, Your Honor. When she came into the office, she was taken to see the apartment. She wanted the apartment. It was a one-bedroom apartment with a backyard, a private backyard. We never list storage or closets.
All right, so she comes in and says, can I have that storage? You say, well, I'll find out.
Right. And the landlord's like, no, this is my own personal.
Right, wait. But without knowing whether she gets a storage or not, she says, I want to take it off the market. Here's my $1,250.
Oh, absolutely.
And then the landlord says, no, that's not her storage. That's a storage for someone else in the house.
Exactly.
And then what happens? What does she tell you?
I have a lot of stuff and I need that space and, I don't want the apartment no more.
Okay, but she says, according to you, you see a rat box in the backyard?
That is correct. And she's not.
Tell me about the rat box. Tell me about the rat box.
Okay. Like I said, it was the first initial time I did not get the opportunity to step outside in the backyard.
Why not?
Because it was wet. It was raining.
So what? What are you, the Wicked Witch of the West? You're gonna melt?
Well, there was a cemented part, and I
whatever.
stepped out.
So you rent an apartment without that's a 1-bedroom with a backyard that is exclusively yours, but you don't look at the backyard. Got it. All right. So now after you've rented after you give the deposit, which you understand is to take it off the market. I mean, the deposit is, unless you have a good reason that they fooled you, which is what your theory is here, you don't get back these deposits. They're non-refundable by default.
I wasn't explained that.
Okay, hold on. You have pictures of your office where she was with signs that say non-refundable deposit. What would you think it would be? The whole idea is that you're getting something for getting the deposit, which is they don't get to talk to anybody else. It's all yours. Well, why would you think it was refundable?
Your Honor, those photos, whatever photos she's talking about, they weren't there.
I haven't even seen them yet.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. We've been there for 9 years, and they've always been there.
Please note, refunds on deposits require written requested facts. Refunds will be processed in 5 to 7 days. If you are withdrawing an application that's already been approved by the landlord, you will lose your entire deposit. This one was already approved by the landlord, right?
No.
Commission is earned when the broker has obtained oral agreement between the landlord and the tenant on essential terms of the tenancy. Had a lease been signed? No, right?
No, she was coming in to sign a lease that day when she said she no longer wanted the apartment because she
that
used
was
storage.
when, in relation to you telling her you don't have the storage. Was it the same day or the next day or?
It was the same day.
No, that's not true.
So you go to the backyard, and according to you, you hear everybody talking about how it's Planet of the Rats, and one neighbor talks about having to beat down a rat with a baseball bat, and then you see what?
A black box semi-buried in the yard, outside in the dirt, because there's a
in your what would be your backyard.
What would be my backyard?
Okay,
yes.
And how big is the box?
It's a big black box that
Like
they
this?
use in the city to catch rats.
Okay,
Your Honor, can I just say something?
No, hold on. And then you see that, and what do?
I said, oh my God, this means that there's rats back here. The real estate agent who showed me the apartment.
Oh, because it's not her?
It's not her.
Okay, go on.
It's not her. She saw it too. And
Okay,
she
where's the
even
real estate agent that showed her the apartment? Why
She's
isn't that?
no longer with us.
Okay.
But I was privy to.
Why is she no longer with you?
everything? She
Well,
found
not
another.
privy just means it's hearsay. It means somebody
Right,
told
she
you.
was-
But what my question is, why is she no longer with
She
you?
found another job.
Okay. So according to you, she sees it and what?
And she says, ew.
Yeah, I'd say.
And she shaked her head too, like I wouldn't want it either.
Right. And then what happens?
And then I said, well, I'm not taking it now. She said, I understand.
So if you see a rat trap, but you don't see any rats, and you have a lease, can you break the lease on that basis?
I would think you can't because you haven't seen a rat and they might just be putting it there just in case.
Well, who does it just in case? You usually do it if there's a rat, right?
I mean, if there's a rat, you should be able to break the lease, you know what I'm saying?
But you haven't seen a rat, you just see the trap.
Yeah, but it's like if you see a rat, you should be able to move out. Like, why?
You don't see a rat, you just see a trap. Going inside the courtroom.
Is there any email traffic between you guys or any text that would prove up either one of your versions?
There's an email from from me and the initial agent that identifies me not wanting the apartment. It doesn't
Let me
mention
see
the
that.
rats.
And then what about you? Do you have any texts or emails from her between her and the original agent
No.
or anyone in your office? Nothing. Okay, let me see what you got.
But it clearly states that I had
Let me see what it
declined to
clearly
take the
states.
apartment.
I'll be the judge of what it
Okay.
clearly states. Wow, it's a lot of text. All right, here we go. Okay, now on June 15th, after you've given the deposit, hi Shay, I forgot to ask if the other little room outside the apartment is part of the space and can be used for storage. Okay, that's 5 days after you handed the deposit.
Okay.
Peace Realty answers, I can find out and let you know. And you say, okay, I also seen the room in the apartment photo, so I just wanted to make sure. The apartment has only 2 closets, so if it's accessible to me, it would be great. The landlord says you would not have access. You hear that on the 18th. So it's not true that you rented it with the impression that you'd have access. Because you don't even ask until 5 days later. With
Well,
the super,
I automatically-
and you say, I keep forgetting to ask you.
Because I automatically assume because
Well,
it
that's
was
not
a
what
part
you
of the
said. What you
photos.
said was that you asked. and that, on that day. But in any event, would the super be willing to share the space? Because I got a lot of stuff. I'll find out. And then on June 20th, they tell you the applicant, it was texted. You don't know this because, right? But Peace Realty texts you, I spoke with the landlord and you're accepted. So if you want, we can get the leases prepared. And you say on June 21st, I'd like to see the place one more time, take further measurements now that I know I won't have access to the other room. If I have to get rid, you say, if I have to get rid of too much stuff, then I don't want it. Couldn't you show me something else? Mm-hmm. Is there ever a text about rats?
No.
Was there a box about with rats in the back? Was there one of those?
No, ma'am. We rented that apartment a couple of days later.
But do you know for a fact, would you ever go out there?
I'd go to that apartment.
Have you ever seen a box out there?
No, ma'am.
Did you know she was claiming that there's a rat problem?
Never heard of it.
But did you know when you got the lawsuit that that's what she was saying?
No, never heard of that.
Wait, but didn't she say that in the lawsuit? In the original lawsuit that she filed, she doesn't say about a rat problem?
No.
Primary reason for claim, deposit. Not one word about rats in your original claim form. You know what? Nice try, no cigars. $1,200.50 that you're asking for them to pay you because you ended up changing your mind on an apartment. I am not going to order them to pay. That is a forfeited. And in fact, you guys didn't even, you spent all this work and you didn't even make any money on it. Because by the 25th of June, that landlord says, what the heck? I had a tenant.
Exactly.
What's going on? Which is what they pay you for too.
Right.
All right, now, verdict for the defendant.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the plaintiff comes out empty-handed. Her suit goes down the rat hole here. What's your feeling on the outcome here?
I think that they did a lot of lying.
Why didn't you mention rats before you got into this courtroom?
Because that was the case. That's not even the person the agent who showed me the apartment.
Okay, all right. Good luck to you. Right down this way. And all right, what do you think happened here? Step in here.
Well, I just came and I told the truth. She never once.
Well, what was the problem with this customer?
She wasn't happy. She wanted an apartment for her stuff and not for herself.
Okay, over to Harvey.
Thank you.
I mean, here's the deal, and this is always the risk you run when you file a lawsuit. The other person can sue you back. And in this case, the defendant really could sue the plaintiff for back rent, because the bottom line here is that the plaintiff had no right to break the lease, and therefore the plaintiff bailed unlawfully.
What's up, y'all? If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for sticking with me. I know it's my first one and I've got some learning to do and some growing to do. But if you made it all the way to the end, thank you for sticking with me. Like, share, comment, subscribe. What did y'all think about that case? I think it's always super funny how they say at the end that they never got to tell their story when she asks you questions like, she gives you an opportunity to state your case. And if you were the only one talking, how did you not tell your story? And it always baffles me when they go in there knowing that you lying. Stop lying. Stop lying. Okay? All right, y'all. It's SheMac Reacts. I'm out. Peace.